Optimism. It's a very important word. It's a very important idea. And this week we're going to talk about the power of optimism and the impact of being optimistic in your life. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know I've been talking a lot for many years about my work as a psychotherapist and about my own journey through life and how my life had kind of a difficult start to it. I had a childhood that had some abuse issues in it at the hands of my father, and what it was like growing up in Boston, Massachusetts in the 80s and 90s, and how being optimistic about my future helped me. In fact, I would go a step further and say it saved me. It didn't just help me deal with a hard situation, it actually propelled me into a bigger, brighter future and into a world, into a life that I could be proud of and that I could live and that I could be excited about. Like the life I lead now is one that I'm very excited about, one that I'm very proud of, one that I literally excited to live every day. But it happened as a result of an optimistic mindset. So this week we're going to talk about not only what optimism is, but why it's so important, why it's so powerful, and why it's so transformational. So welcome back to the Aha Moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. And look, optimism, I'll define it first. Optimism is having confidence and hope that a situation will go in a positive direction and work out for you. And, during the hardest parts of my childhood, and I can remember being depressed, I remember being anxious, I remember being really down and having super low self-esteem, but I always believed that there was something right around the corner that was going to work out for me. I just believed if I could hold on, if I could keep going, eventually things will turn in my favor. And I can remember walking home from school and really believing my house isn't as big or awesome as some of my peers, and my dad was always super angry, and my parents eventually separated, and that was a whole mess, and I remember all of that. But I used to dream. Now I didn't realize at the time that I was having these dreams, but I used to dream of one day I'm gonna be somebody. I remember I used to look at the street sign where I live, and this is really stupid stuff, but I'm just telling you because it's so important and it really speaks to the power of optimism. But I used to look at the street sign. I lived on Church Ave in Franklin, Massachusetts, and I used to see the street signs at Church Ave, and I used to envision one day they're going to name that Elliott Connie Avenue because I'm going to do something great. I didn't know what it was. At the time, I was in love with sports, so I thought I'd be such a great athlete that they'd be so proud of me to be from this place that they would name the street that I used to live on called Elliott Connie Avenue. And I would have little dumb dreams and visions like that. Like one day, it's like somebody would drive by in a beautiful car, and I'd be like, one day I'm gonna drive a car like that. I don't know what I'm gonna do to be able to afford it. I don't know what I'm gonna do to be able to have it, but one day I'm gonna have it. One day I'm gonna be able to afford it. When I moved to Texas, I would drive around, and I had no money. My family moved to Texas. Literally, me, my younger brother, and my mother packed everything we owned in a Ford Escort and drove from Massachusetts to Texas in the summer of 1996. That was how I moved to Texas. So we moved in with an aunt just to make the transition happen. And then I went away to school. No money, none. And I remember I would drive by something, if most of you seen the Dallas skyline, there's a big long tube building with a ball at the top of it, and that's called Reunion Tower. And I found out there's a restaurant inside there that spins, and I'm like, one day I'm gonna have dinner in that restaurant. Those sort of things, they help you dream. And when you dream and when you envision those sorts of things, you start to live a world that creates that as reality. So I've had dinner in that spinning restaurant. I've purchased a car or two that's that was a great car. I mean, I don't have any supercars or anything, but I've purchased a Mercedes or BMW that was the dream car when I was a kid. They have not named a street after me, but I've done so many of the things that I dreamt about. More than anything else, is I was able to create a life that I can be proud of. So just allow yourself the ability to dream. Allow yourself the ability to envision. And that's a habit I have to this day. I've started doing stand-up comedy as a hobby. It's something I like doing. I like making people laugh, and it's fun to do. And when I see something, I'm like, man, one day I'm going to do that. I remember last year, shout out to Tony Rock. Tony Rock is a friend of mine. I've done his podcast. He's super dope, amazing comedian. And last year, and I follow Tony Rock on social media, and he came to Arlington, Texas to do the New Year's Eve show. And I texted him, and I said, like, what are the dates? Obviously, you're going to be there on New Year's Eve, but what are the dates around it? Because I had something I was doing New Year's Eve. And he texted me back. He's like, we're just doing the New Year's Eve show. I'm going to be gone. I was like, oh, man, I'm going to miss you. I'm not going to be there, so I'm going to miss the show. So let's catch up another time. But that put it in my head, like, oh, I want to do a New Year's Eve show one day. And this past year, I did a New Year's Eve show. Like, you can't manifest if you can't envision and view that future with hope and confidence. And I promise more things will work out for you. Thanks for being here. If you wouldn't mind doing me a super huge favor, I would love it if you would share this podcast with at least one person in your life that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And also, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to your podcast. And also follow me on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can search for my name, Elliott Connie, or @Elliott Speaks. That's my handle across all platforms. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.